briefly introduce yourselves, your role, your business, and help us understand what motivated your organisation to partner with the charity? And I'll ask Tash and Maeva to answer this one first. Tash, would you like to kick us off?
Yes, thanks, Will. I'd be delighted to. So hello to everybody who's joined today. I'm Tash. I'm the Global Community Impact Manager for IHG. So I look after our Global Strategic Communities Programme. So that ranges from our partnership with Action Against Hunger to all sorts of other programmes and projects that we run across our hotel footprint globally. And yes, did you want me to also answer the question? Why we're partnering?
Yes, please. Yeah. So why are you guys partnering with us, Tash? Tell us more.
So as part of our responsible business strategy, which is our Journey to Tomorrow 10-year plan to be a responsible, sustainable business, at the heart of that is a focus on 3 core areas around food, disasters and skills, all of which are really pertinent and related issues to our business. So those are the 3 pillars at the heart of the community strategy. And what we're doing, or what we plan to be doing with Action Against Hunger, it's still early days because we launched the partnership in September, but we have worked with you for a long time to shape the work in this space. We want to really level up that work and make a really big impact across the areas of the world that are harder to reach, and also complement the work that our teams and hotels are doing locally as well. So and as part of our Journey to Tomorrow, we partner with experts who excel in their field and can help us to reach our ambitious goals in this space. And Action Against Hunger was the leading organisation in that space, and that's why we're working with you.
We're so excited, Tash, as you know. I mean, as you say, quite at the start of this journey, but shared goals, huge excitement on both sides about what we can achieve together in a truly global partnership. So yes, watch this space. Maeva, same question to you. You've been a partner with us for a little while now, haven't you? But tell us a little bit more about yourself and your organisation and why you were initially motivated to partner with us.
Yes, so I'm Maeva. I work as a sustainability coordinator at KellyDeli, so overseeing our sustainability strategy in our 11 countries of operation. So on a variety of topics, including packaging, sustainable sourcing, and also our social impact, which is where I come in around our partnership with Action Against Hunger. And indeed, it did start a while ago. It started in 2020. And in the beginning, there was mainly the UK contributing to the partnership. And now we have 8 of our countries of operation participating in the partnership. And what really motivated KellyDeli to take part in the partnership with Action Against Hunger is twofold. So on the first sort of reason is because our founders have always wanted to give back to communities that are impacted by hunger. So this is related to Kelly Choi, our founder's lived experience. She grew up in rural South Korea and has sort of lived the negative consequences of hunger firsthand. And as a consequences, has always been really motivated to have sort of key role in tackling hunger. And then the second element is that as a food company, we have a role to play in ensuring that everyone has access to enough and nutritious and varied food. And so contributing to SDG 2 is part of our social pillar. And yeah, that's why we decided to partner with Action Against Hunger.
And we're so proud of our partnership, and long, long may it continue, Maeva. Thank you. Ritah, you're coming from a slightly different perspective here, not a partner, but a colleague. Could you perhaps introduce yourself and your role at Action Against Hunger too?
Okay, I'm called Ritah Kabanyoro. I'm the country director for Action Against Hunger in Uganda. Everything Will has presented and what Jean-Michel said is very true. But we are the guys who do the real dirty work here in Uganda. We do programs in food security and livelihoods. We do treatment and prevention of malnutrition. So we have a function for health and nutrition. We also have water, sanitation, and hygiene, and we have advocacy as well. Uganda, we have a staff count of about 200 people. All of them are delivering this impact that I'm talking about. And annually, we reach about 3 million people every year. Over to you, Will.
Oh, amazing. Look forward to hearing more about that later in the call. And as you say, you do the real hard work. Jean-Michel and I just talk a good game, but no, huge amounts of respect. We're humbled by what you and your teams do on a daily basis. So thank you for joining us. Next question, and this is a question that helps us look forward a little bit. And all of you are involved in this in different ways. So my question to the panel, I'll start again with you, Tash, is how do you see CSR and sustainability efforts evolving in the coming years? And again, how does partnering with a charity like us, but other charities too, help meet these future challenges?
It's a great question, and I'll try not to go off on a tangent, so reel me in if you need to. But I think the main thing I would say is that we're seeing a lot more alignment with the global goals, for example. So our responsible business plan at IHG is really focused on how we can support the big issues in society, rather than looking at things perhaps in isolation or that are more like tactical. I think there's that much more global strategic view on how we can collaborate as businesses with the community experts who know what they're doing in this space to bring about real change. And the second one that I'm seeing more and more is this huge focus on data and reporting and being able to like realistically measure and track the impact that you're making. So that is the ever-present challenge. But I think as businesses, we're getting better and better at it. And as charities, you're getting better and better at it. And we live in this world where there's no end to the amount of data that we can collect, but it's how we use it and how we, help our support our strategy and direction using the information that we're getting from our partners and the communities. So those are probably the main ones, I would say. And in terms of our programme, we're definitely very aligned with the SDGs that we've already mentioned. So particularly obviously around food security, but also around health and well-being. They're obviously very interconnected as well. But yeah, I think that those key areas are probably the main ones.
Very succinct, Tash. Well done. I think I know that this is a passion of yours, so we'll come back to some of those themes in greater depth, I suspect, later on. But Maeva, over to you. The same question: what trends are you seeing in terms of CSR, and again, how can partnering help with those?
Yeah, so I think it's bounce back on what Tash mentioned. I can really see that there's sort of couple of factors that are pressuring companies to take CSR more seriously and really invest in it. So there's some new regulation in the European sort of environment that have been adopted recently, and that will require companies to report more around social matters. So to name a few, there is the CSRD, so the Corporate Sustainable Reporting Directive, and the CS3D, Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. So I feel like on that front, as Tash mentioned, companies will be required to report more on those matters, and partnering with a charity like Action Against Hunger can bring granular information in terms of the impact that the funds have had. And then I see as well from a sort of customer perspective, we see in the global trends that customers are demanding more and more from companies. And they are demanding sort of transparency, commitment as well, and alignment as well with their values. And that's where I see partnering with a charity like Action Against Hunger bringing a lot of value for a company, both in terms of customer alignment, and also in terms of due diligence with these upcoming regulations.
Thanks, Maeva. Yeah, it's really helpful perspective there, actually. And I've got a feeling some of what you're saying will prompt some questions. So please, if you do have any questions, put them in the chat and we can come to those at the end. Ritah, again, I guess you've got a different perspective on this to some degree, being on the front line, but really interested to hear your thoughts on again, any ways in which you're seeing business and in Kampala and Uganda as a whole making a difference to communities and trying to work and partner with organisations such as ourselves.
Okay, so as Tasha and Maeva have already alluded, the role of private sector entities has really evolved when it comes to social work and the work we try to do as NGOs. And that's the same for Uganda. Though given that in the global south, most of our funding comes from, the global north, we've not had a lot of businesses really interested in to say, oh, let's maybe fund a program, or let's do this. Even the CSR we've had has been very limited to basic things that still benefit the organization or the company. But most recently, we've seen those trends change. I think businesses are waking up to realize that if they don't get on some of these social causes, they also stand to lose. If you don't contribute to a hospital that needs to be present in the community you're born, your very own sister, brother, grandmother, we stand to lose. And also in Uganda, we lose close to $900 million, about 5.6% of our GDP is lost due to malnutrition and related causes, because our human capital development is very low. We have high rates of morbidity, because of people being stunted and all of that. So the private sector is waking up to all of this, and their role is slowly evolving, and they're starting to be more socially responsive to a number of causes that we're doing. We're seeing them come in and say, we want to partner with you on this. In some cases, they may not give you maybe funding for a project or something, but they'll come and say, we'll give you this at a subsidized rate. We will take your farmers' produce at an advantageous rate, so we allow them, to improve their livelihoods. And that's creating greater impact down here. Over to you.
Well, that's brilliant to hear. And I guess, yeah, exactly what we want to be doing more, and scaling that type of work and partnership up together with government too, and other actors in that space. Brilliant. I suppose there's a question, of course, that we always have people on the call and on this panel about what the role of business is in terms of addressing those large scale, those systemic, those global challenges: hunger, climate change, conflict. And again, how can working in partnership support with that? So I'm just interested in the panel's reflections really on the role of business here, in terms of addressing some of the challenges of our age. Again, Tash, sorry, you've got the short straw today. I'm going to come to you first.
No problem. I think it's the opportunity is huge if you can find a partner where you've got a great working relationship, and you can be really, I think we talked about this when we met previously, but be really flexible in the way that you're both willing to work and build a relationship that's based on trust and really strong relationships for the long term. The opportunities are genuinely endless, because as a company we have such a huge customer base and stakeholder base, and we can offer you as an organization the chance to amplify your message and your voice as a fantastic organization working in this space. And I think again it goes beyond the old-fashioned view of CSR as a bolt-on, and it's something that's our partnership with Action Against Hunger will be really integrated into things like our employee communications and engagement opportunities for our teams to understand how they can get involved and how they can affect change, complementing any sort of local partnerships that they might already be involved in. It doesn't have to be either or. I think both can sit together really, really nicely. So yeah, I think that we have a very important role to play, and I think finding organisations that you have really mutual alignment with in terms of what you're trying to achieve is really important. And yeah, so we have a huge opportunity ahead of us with our Action Against Hunger and IHG partnership. I'm very excited about where it's going to go, even though it's we've only really kicked it off this year. We do intend to work together over the long term and impact millions and millions of people. So I know we don't have any numbers to say right now, but I think the ambition and the potential is massive.
Oh, and we'll report back, I'm sure, in future years on. I mean, that impact measurement is a key part of any kind of strategic partnership, and I would agree with everything you've said, and that kind of that buy-in at all levels. I think when the partnerships that work well best, in my experience, is when you're kind of wholly integrated, within each other's organisations, and that's from board level downwards. But you have to have those touch points and that governance around these partnerships that really supports you with those shared long-term goals. And of course, one of the organisations we're part of in the UK is the Disasters Emergency Committee, the DEC, which is a great example of where charities can come together and, to your point, not necessarily be in competition, but actually collaborate around shared goals together with business too. Maeva, I'm going to come back to you actually, because I think we're interested to hear a bit more about your partnership. Could you tell us a little bit more about how the partnership, again, aligns with, supports your sustainability goals, and perhaps some practical examples, given we've been in partnership a bit longer than Tash and I have, or we have, over the last kind of 4 or 5 years, any examples where you think they've had a real impact in advancing some of your goals?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like our partnership with Action Against Hunger has helped us contribute to and progress on 2 of our sort of CSR work stream. So the first one, which is quite straightforward, is the advocating for social impact. And the second one, which is a bit less straightforward, but I'll explain how we came to progressing on this area, is minimizing food waste. So the first element, obviously, through our partnership with Action Against Hunger, we contributed to tackling one of the biggest challenge, which is hunger. We had the sort of objective of helping save 22,000 lives from hunger by the end of 2025, and to raise €1 million as well since the beginning of the partnership by 2025. And we've managed to reach these 2 objectives before the deadline. So we've already hit those 2 goals, which is mainly thanks to our employees' commitment, and also our customers' sort of understanding of the partnership and support to the partnership. Because the main way we raise funds for Action Against Hunger is through cause-related marketing. So we have 2 key products that raise funds for Action Against Hunger. So for each sale on this product, we donate 20p to Action Against Hunger. And one of the sort of products that has had the biggest impact is Forgotten Hand, and that's where the sort of minimizing food waste comes in, and how we've managed to sort of meet 2 of our objectives through the partnership. So Forgotten Hand is a product that was created around the moment when we started talking about building a partnership with Action Against Hunger. So that really shows how actually partnering with charity can bring about innovation. So we were brainstorming with the local teams on how to make this partnership make sense for our business. And one of our former colleagues, so Annabelle Brimercom, came up with the idea of creating a salad pot that reused the ends of our sushi rolls. So the end of the sushi rolls are cut out to make the sushi look neat, and they used to be discarded. So we had this idea of putting them in a pot, making a salad out of it, and adding a sort of 20p donation to the product. And this sort of product that solved 2 challenges in one, so both fighting hunger and also reducing food waste, has been super successful. And we've managed to raise over €706,000 just through the sale of the 20p donation on each of the products sold since the beginning of the partnership. And we've managed to also save 600 tons of food. So it really shows how, partnering with the Action Against Hunger has been integral to our sustainability goals and strategy, not just on the social aspect, but also on food waste reduction on that case.
It's such a great example, isn't it? I mean, of where kind of you can achieve multiple objectives through partnership. And of where, again, as you say, that innovation probably wouldn't have happened had we not been talking 4 or 5 years ago about how can we tackle some of these things together. So a brilliant example. Thank you, Maeva.
Yeah, definitely. And sorry, I just wanted to
yeah.
add, and I feel like also the when you create the sort of partnership, like employees are so motivated about them that they will come up with like innovation that they would not have otherwise outside of the partnership.
Yeah, that's a great, and that's something that we may hear more from Natasha in a minute, you know, how we can get the whole organization involved and colleagues really excited about the work we can do in partnership too. I think not just customers, but it can be an incredible thing. Ritah, I'm going to come back to you just thinking a bit about the broader question about responsible business and the role of business in kind of addressing some large scale challenges and some global challenges. And just from an operational perspective, whether you could share any examples of where you've seen this happen in Uganda or elsewhere.
Sure. Kindly allow me share a screen. That's okay.
Of course.
I hope you can all see that.
We can, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the story I want to share here, this lady is called Sessions, and as you can see, she is packaging her produce. This was just one season, and if you see the expanse of the entire photo, you'll see a lot of bags. And she's one of the farmers in a farmers group that we are supporting. Patients came in as a refugee at an old age, and she came with a number of grandchildren, about 5 of them, that I think belong to her son. She doesn't know where her son is. She just has the children, all of whom are under 5. So through our profiling exercise, we managed to identify patients, and we put the children under a treatment for malnutrition program, and they managed to recover. So what we normally do after the 6 weeks treatment, we make sure that we transition you into a food security and livelihoods programs, teach you how to produce your own food. And after you know how to produce your own food, we will teach you how to produce extra and start doing commercial agriculture. So after 6 months, Patience is now doing commercial agriculture, and we go to a point where we have a lot of produce. But because she's in a refugee settlement, she doesn't have very good access to the market. And we then walked to a private sector company, a vendor who deals in this kind of produce. And we said, we have farmers like Patience who have all this produce. We want you to come and buy at farm gate price so that they're not exploited by middlemen. And we facilitated the signing of an MOU between the farmers group and the private sector company so that everything the farmers produce, there's someone ready to buy it. These farmers struggle with storage facilities because they have they have 30 by 30 feet pieces of land where they have to do everything. You have to farm, you have to put a house, a toilet, everything happens on that small piece of land. So clearly they don't have storage facilities. We've set up some in the communities, bulking centers, but they're not enough. So it's very important for us that the market can come and find them where they are as quickly as possible. And that market is in the private sector. We have many examples of people like Patience. We are doing a lot of contract farming so that people are able to earn income. In our work as well, many of the solutions we're looking for example, a lot of the digital apps we are using are developed by the private sector. And these are the conversations we are starting to have with them. We're telling them, some of them may not have the money to give us, but can you bring a solution that we can work with? Those that have resources to give us, we know what the community problems are. We've done a lot of investment in research. We have the data. We've engaged the communities. We know the solutions. We can facilitate the process to help you reach even greater impact. I like what Maeva and Natasha said that, through action against hunger, they know that they're going to deliver more impact and reach more people. Instead of them choosing to reinvent the wheel and reach Uganda, it will take a lot for IHG hotels to reach Uganda. So if they can entrust organizations like Action Against Hunger to be that extensive arm to reach people like Patience, I think that delivers greater impact for them. Thank you very much.
Yeah, lots of nodding heads there. Ritah, Tasha's included, and I'm going to turn to Tash now. Actually, just to share, and you shared some of this already, Tash, but in a few words, what you hope IHG, with your global ambition to reach 30 million people by the end of 2030, I think it is.
Yeah.
How do you hope your company's partnership with us will support those business ambitions and make a real difference to people, like we just heard about the communities?
So as you've said, the 30 million sort of target or strategic target that we have on the communities side is around improving the lives of 30 million people around the world by 2030, across the 3 pillars that I talked about before. So it includes our work with when natural disasters strike. It includes our work around driving economic and social change through our skills training and innovation programs, and also collaborating around food security. So it's across those 3. But we know from the work that we've already done with Action Against Hunger that the potential to impact huge numbers of people is massive. So the programs will really support that strategic pillar, helping you increase your reach as an organisation into the communities where you're already helping, but hopefully enabling you to be flexible and be able to go to the areas where there's the people most in need and the most vulnerable people, and in turn we will hopefully be able to see that impact just grow over the multi-year partnership. So it couldn't be more aligned to the Journey to Tomorrow goal, because it will directly impact that big strategic aim to reach that many people. So we're really excited to see how it all sort of unfolds over the years.
And as I said, as are we, and it's really interesting hearing from both you and Maeva. I mean, I think this idea that we can work in partnership to build a kind of global movement, here, with the scale that your businesses have and the reach they have, that is far greater than we have here in the UK, and it's an amazing opportunity for us as well to help raise awareness and to tell some amazing stories like the one you just heard, about communities that will be impacted and supported through partnership and through public support. So yeah, really exciting. I'm going to bring this to a close now with my final question, because we've got a couple of questions in the Q&A. If you do have any questions for the panel, please pop them in there now. What would each of you say to anyone, companies or individuals that are considering but not yet committed yet to partnering with Action Against Hunger? What can they expect in terms of impact for their business and for the world? Big question there. I'm going to go with you, Tash, because you had the stick last, I'm afraid. So back to you again. Yeah, what would you say to anyone that's thinking about partnering with us but hasn't yet?
Well, I mean, obviously, yes, I've said already, it's relatively early days, but I think what's really interesting in a role like mine, and I've worked on lots of partnerships since charity and corporate partnerships since 2006, and I have to say there's certain ingredients that you can tell are going to make a partnership work really well. And I think one of those is from the outset, you guys have been really open and collaborative in your approach, super engaging, and like we talked about earlier, that sort of multi-level buy-in where we've got our senior team really involved as well as yours right from the start. So I think those key ingredients are there from day one, and that's such a strong foundation. And yeah, I think we're learning as we go, and I think with everybody going into it with that mindset, it looks really, really positive from where I'm standing as a partnership. So I mean, ask me again in a couple of years, but for now I'm all very, very, the future's looking very bright for us, I think.
Good. And I've loved meeting all of your colleagues. I think there's something else we've really enjoyed, is that as a cause, we're quite simple in some ways, very complex in terms of what we do, and incredibly expert, but none, communicating it to colleagues and partners is, we find quite straightforward, because hunger is one of those things that everyone can identify with and the impact it has on them and their families. And so yes, really looking forward to working with you and many, many colleagues at IHG, and I know there are many of you, so looking forward to that. Maeva, do you want to take this question? Any final reflections on what people should expect and look forward to if they're partnering with us?
Yeah. So I think you can expect like a lot of impact, and as I said earlier, like very granular sort of information in terms of the impacts your fund has had. For instance, we've at KellyDeli, we've mainly funded a key project called Project Verdi, which aims at tackling hunger and malnutrition in one of the worst affected districts in India called Gujarat. And the funds that we've raised have allowed Action Against Hunger to train over 4,000 health care workers on maternal, infant, and young child nutrition. And they've also allowed the charity to reach over 150,000 children through the first 1,000-day program. And this sort of partnership that we've had for many years, supporting this project for over 3 years now, has allowed the charity as well to be recognized by the local government. So it also goes to show that companies and charity partnership are super key and very important to sort of inspire other entities, and here in my example, the government, to take actions as well. And then in terms of what companies should think about now, I feel like you should have a think about the positive impact that this partnership will have, both on your employee engagement and also your customer and just your business relationship, and the sort of impact that you will have on a global scale challenge like hunger.
Maeva, well said. Hear. Ritah, the final word to you. What would you say to anyone on the call that hasn't partnered with us yet, or perhaps is partnering with us now? What can they expect in terms of the impact they can have with Action Against Hunger?
I'll re-echo the same. Greater impact, definitely. Organizations like Action Against Hunger that have proven experience, that have invested a lot in innovations, especially when it comes to our technical approaches and models, and we know what works. We know what can eliminate hunger in the world. I think those are the right partners to work with. So if you come and you're on that same mission, and we can help you further the social work that you're trying to do, organizations like us are quite a great partner to work with. So if you haven't made the decision, now is the time. And if you think some of these crises or issues are very far from you, that's not the case anymore. The world is more connected than ever before. We like to say in Uganda that an investment in a refugee today is less of a need tomorrow. So as we work on resolving the humanitarian and development needs of some of these people right now, it saves us the burden in the future. Otherwise, if we don't, the crises are going to continue, and before we know it, this spread across to more people, and then it will eventually reach us. So if you haven't made the decision, now is the time to make it.
Thank you, Ritah. We need to get you involved in our pitches, I think. That was it's hard to say no to that. Listen, panel, thank you so much for your time today, and thanks to everybody for joining us. I can see there's a couple of questions, but I think they're quite big ones, so I'm going to suggest we get back to you on email on those. So apologies for not answering them on the call. My thanks to all of you. Again, your time is so precious, and again, we really appreciate everyone that's dialed in to join us today. If you're joining us or getting this on YouTube, again, please do think about how you can partner with us to make a difference in the world. But I shall bid farewell now and thank Jean-Michel too for kicking us off at the start. We shall see you all next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.